This is Flick.
This is Rudy.
And this week we're talking about hooks, pop songs, our favorite all-time hooks, the songs that we would totally be willing to hear a million times because we're never going to get sick of them. We could listen to them over and over and over every single day as if we were living in Groundhog Day, which is coming right up.
Yeah, so totally just in time for Groundhog Day. We're talking about hooks so big that they can stand up to literally unlimited listens. I think we've come up with some pretty good lists to get to it next.
And with Groundhog Day in mind, we're just going to put a spoiler out there. I Got You, Babe is not on either of our lists.
I don't want to diss I Got You, Babe. I think you could make a case for it. Maybe we will.
I'm just saying it isn't on either of our lists, is it?
True enough, sir. True enough.
All right, spoiler alert.
Get him. All right, this one you may well know, you may not know it, and if you don't know it, I really don't know where you've been.
You forgot? Forgot the magnetism of Robin Zander or the charisma of Rick Nielsen?
That's kid stuff.
It's just come up to 5:35 a.m. Kommen Sie bitte und listen to Kraftwerk.
I don't know, man. I kind of like Van Halen.
Well, yeah, Plum, you do. And you know why you do? Because corporate America is shoving something down your throat and making you believe it because that's what they want you to believe. I mean...
Get him.
Okay, buddy. I was just trying to cheer us up, so go ahead. Put on some old sad bastard music, see if I care.
That was Big Yellow Taxi by Joni Mitchell, a song in which Joni complains that they paved Paradise to put up a parking lot. A measure which actually would have alleviated traffic congestion on the outskirts of Paradise, something which Joni singularly fails to point out, perhaps because it doesn't quite fit in with her blinkered view of the world. Nevertheless, nice song.
How about the tunes? I want you to want me. The Dream Police. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. Your mama's alright. Your daddy's alright.
I get by because the people make a special effort to shop here. Mostly young men who spend all their time looking for deleted Smith singles and original, not re-released underline Frank Zappa albums.
Gang. Yes. I mean, look, you can play an E pentatonic scale at 100 miles an hour till somebody's ears burn off. You can learn that, right? But finding the tangents within the framework, therein lies the artistry, man.
God made your ears. You didn't make them. You gonna argue with God's ears? If it sound good and it feel good, then it's musical. So play it like I say play it. From the top.
That was Sweating Lunatic Iggy Pop, part of our Tuesday night punk pack, which is climaxing at midnight with Madness. This is Norfolk Nights with Alan Partridge, and we're in the middle of Super Talk. Super Talk!
All right, so this is episode 19 of Left of the Dial podcast. We're going to be talking about some of our favorite hooky songs of all time, the hookiest, or our favorite hooks, and the songs that they are contained within. But we also have some new stuff that we want to talk about first.
Big hooks, big tunes.
Yeah. But yeah, we got some new stuff that just came in that we want to talk about to begin the show.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. I think I think I found my first song of 2020 that I'm willing to say is going to make my best of for the end of the year 50, I think, which is Moneybagg Yo's 1, 2, 3. I'll put it in the playlist. I'm not a huge fan of the modern rap stuff, but every once in a while I get a hot tip from my nephew, and can't beat it. I mean, it's vulgar, it's puerile, it's all the ridiculous stuff that rap can be sometimes, just the this sort of like hyper testosterone fueled and just gross exaggerations and just all that ridiculousness that makes it interesting. So it's all that great beat, and not to get too cute with it, but it is pretty hooky as things go. So 1, 2, 3 by Moneybagg Yo was hot for me in my 2020 best of.
All right. Well, and over the weekend, some new, like we have, seems like the first time this year we have full albums now.
Yeah.
The full Wire came out, and I'm blanking on the title of it. What was the title?
Oh, I can't remember right offhand. I'll have to look it up.
Mind Hive.
Okay.
So yeah, Mind Hive came out really good. The singles leading up to it have been both very strong, and there's still more on the album. I think I'm a little bit more into the first half of the album than the second, but it is strong. It's very good to have new stuff from Wire and have it be as strong as it is.
Yep. Every one of the pre-release singles was strong. I'm not a master of the album by any means, but you gotta give Wire credit. This is like at least their third, probably maybe their fourth even. Like, just they've had like these bookended like statements, and for a band that old to have never really repeated themselves and had like 4 meaningful languages in which they've used.
Yeah, and they're
pretty big
in their 6th decade now.
Yeah. I'm just, again, I want to just I have a little bit of insecurity about it, but I'm the weird Wire fan who likes the Mute Records stuff from the 80s. Like, to me, Ahead would be an example of them at their absolute best. I know almost no one loves that era, including the Weir album, the WIR album. Although Life in the Manscape is dreadful, all the other ones have at least one, usually 2 or 3 massive singles on it. So just want to throw in for the mid-period Wire while we're loving up the new stuff. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I'm an early Wire fan, but that's also what's nice about this is they couldn't be farther removed now time wise from the stuff that I love the most, and they're still coming out with stuff that I love. So that's, to me, that's what more can you do than that?
Yeah. Another dude that you and I both like. In fact, we saw when we went to Vancouver. We saw Mr. M. Ward. His new album, I don't think is out yet. There's a new single. And again, I have never had a record of an album of his that I thought was bad. So just being, I'm a bit of a fan, and I'm biased in that regard. The song is called Unreal City. It's kind of different by his standards. I mean, it's still obviously him, but the arrangement is a little different. It's got a little bit of a synth piece to it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't remember the titles now, but the first single that came out, I liked a lot.
Migration of Souls.
Yeah,
was the first.
Okay, another album that came out this week, the new one from the Black Lips, and boy, I'm just blanking on titles left and right.
But all of the singles. This is another one where every one of the pre-releases was good. Some of which was like definitely put a new facet on the diamond for them. Is pretty good stuff. Pretty different. They're all stuff is. It's all instantly them, and it all kind of makes sense. It's all backward looking, but it's been really good. Really good.
Yeah, backward looking doesn't sound like the greatest thing you can. It's not the greatest compliment you can pay, but
it is.
So they're retro. They're very much retro, and I'm going to apply that term in place of the backward looking term.
All right.
Can we agree on that? They're retro, right?
Yeah, I realize it's pejorative, and I didn't mean it that way. Like retro, though, I don't know. You know what? I
It
don't
just
know,
doesn't
man.
seem because we like them, right? We both like them. I like them. We both like the
you're
Black
right.
Lips. So it just doesn't seem like something you would apply to a band that you
All
like.
right, that's fair. That's fair.
And the name of the album is "Singing in a World That's Falling Apart." And yeah, I mean it's really with the Black Lips, you're not looking for a big breakthrough, and not because they're quote unquote backward looking, but
I really touched a nerve there. We're gonna have there's clearly some other issue going on here.
Well, backward looking is not. It very much sounds like a dig. It really does.
Well, I think you're preemptively trying to defend yourself and some of your predilections from being. I think you're trying to take that away from me as ammo.
There is no way that you can say backward looking in a way that isn't pejorative. There's no way that's anything but negative.
Well, yeah, I mean, if someone looks to history for inspiration, then let's say that they look to history for inspiration.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're garagey. Garagey is a retro thing, and that's why I would.
Would you describe the Stray Cats as backward looking? Do you think that they would? Do you think they would object to that?
Yeah, I think they would object to it. Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't object to that? Like if there was an interview, like say you're in a band, you do an interview, right?
Yeah.
And then you look on the cover of Rolling Stone or Spin or whatever, and it describes you as backward looking. You're going to be like, those guys hosed me.
All right, well,
I was set up.
Okay. I am backwards in appearance, so I will relent. I will repent, and will not reference, or I will not use that as a blanket descriptor on a go forward basis.
Yeah, but basically,
but
basically, to kind of sum up, what this album is, it is the Black Lips doing what the Black Lips do. You're kind of looking for, does it rock? Is it fun? And the answer is yes. Fun, funny, raunchy. These are, it's basically what you come to expect from them, and they're giving you more of it here. And also some really, really catchy songs. Nothing new, but some really catchy, a good collection of songs from Black Lips on this new album.
I'm sure the show will be good. I've never heard anybody complain about seeing them. When I've seen them, they were good. So probably a surefire good night out.
Yeah, and a good album. Definitely one worth checking out.
Last one that we got to definitely get in is the Wolf Parade. The new Wolf Parade. Thin Mind is the album.
Yeah, and I haven't heard the full album. I've only heard the singles leading up to it.
Yeah, they've been really good. I just want to shill for Wolf Parade. I don't think they have ever had a bad album. Not all their albums have massive singles on them or in huge hooks. Some of it's a little weirder, some of it's a little not. But they really are one of the they really have put out pretty respectable product for 20 years. Whatever.
Yeah. Shine a Light's still my favorite one, though.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I'll Believe in Anything is irresistible to me. I don't know. It's pretty damn good. You can't. Apologies to the Queen Mary is got to be in a contender for top 5 album of the aughts. There's not a ton better than that. Very few.
Let's see. A few other things I want to mention that are new. I'm going to start with ones that are going back a couple of weeks. Guided by Voices have a new single out, Volcano, that I haven't mentioned. I love Guided by Voices. I'm not going to say this is like going to be one of their all-time classics or anything like that, but definitely a good song. Marshall Crenshaw a few weeks ago released 2541, which is a Grant Hart song that he is covering. Song that Grant Hart wrote about, during his solo career, but he's writing it about Husker Du. He's writing about those days when all those guys lived together, and 2541 was the address. Also new this week, the Pixies have some demos from Beneath the Eyrie that were really good. The songs that probably should have made the album, I think could have only improved the album. And then finally, another one I want to mention is Thoughts and Prayers, the new single by Drive-By Truckers. It's funny that in times where, you think back to all of the songs in the 60s that were in early 70s that were dealing with, that were very political, very dealing with the stuff, the events of the day, very politically charged musically. And you don't see much of that anymore, but we're definitely living in times where you would think you'd get a lot of that. And Drive-By Truckers are very much in that vein, and they seem to be on an island almost with what they're doing.
I haven't heard that. I will definitely go out of my way to figure that one out. Very interesting. I did start a new playlist for February, and I don't know how to explain, but over the holidays I had to drive through Houston, and I just picked up a newfound love. It's not that I didn't like it before, but I didn't realize how great it was. But Still Tippin' by Mike Jones with Slim Thug and Paul Wall. I had to put that on our playlist. I realize it's 15 years old. I realize everybody liked it already. Like, I get all of that stuff, but its inclusion was mandatory. It's important that people go back and enjoy Still Tippin'. Had to put it in there, son.
All right. Okay, we ready to move on to our list?
I think we are.
Okay, so this week we're talking about hooks, our favorite hooks. Hooks are everywhere. Hooks are, excuse me, hooks are really the things that make a song work. They're like the selling points. And so certainly there's no shortage of where you're going to find them. So we're not even going to attempt to say that these are the best hooks ever. What these are our favorites. These are a collection of our favorite hooks, the songs that have our favorite hooks, and songs that we can hear a million times, and we're never going to get sick of them.
Yeah, that's the key definition for me here, because there are lots of songs that have a great line or a great riff or a great chorus. But that doesn't mean that you want to hear them over and over again, or that you don't wear them out. It really takes the big hooks are the things that I think allow something to stay in hot rotation for prolonged periods of time. And most of the songs, like I say, these, not to give away my entire list, but some of the stuff's on the old side. I think there's a more, I do associate songcraft and professional songwriting as being a place where massive hooks come from. And so, if you were on the radio in the 60s or the 50s, you were either a professional songwriter or you were writing that caliber of song. And I don't know, maybe there are as great a hooks going out today as ever. I feel like there's not. Maybe that's just me being old and patrician. Bail me out here. I can't be the only one of us who's going back to a more classic era for hooks.
Yeah, I'm very much back. I'm backward looking, is what I'm doing.
Oh my!
I
am living rent free right now. Keep going.
But my list is very much songs that I've already heard a million times in my life. So these songs have already stood up to test after test, and lots of tire tread on these songs. And so yeah, I mean, I think I could pick a new song and predict that I'm never going to get sick of that song. There's some, like just going back to what the stuff we liked last year, Purple Mountains and Regrets more so for me.
Right.
Plenty of stuff there that I'm sure I'll hear a million times in my life from here on out and never get sick of them. But I'm kind of, my list is very much focused on the songs I've already heard a million times, if not more, and never got even a little bit sick of them. So, these are already very much road tested for me. Very road tested.
We're not presenting exhaustive lists either. This really isn't our all-time rankings. We could probably do this. We could probably do best hooks by decade and easily put a quality list together from the decade that just ended. So again, maybe it's I don't know. Maybe I just have old person bias. I don't know. I probably do. All right, so I think I kick off this week, if I'm not mistaken.
Sure.
It doesn't matter because I think you're going to like my first of. I think we're each doing 10. My number 10, and no, they're not in any particular order. I picked "Band on the Run" by Paul McCartney, because Paul McCartney. I actually think Paul McCartney is probably one of the greatest hook writers to ever live, if not the greatest hook writer to ever live. I could probably do 500 of them. He also has written he's got the choruses, he's got the riffs. I mean, there's every Beatles album presents you with an all-time candidate, and that includes the savage young Beatles when they were young and "She Loves You," yeah, and stuff like incredible hook in these little potboiler records of theirs and these big hooks all over it. So all throughout his career, his resume on hooks I think is unbeatable. But I have never heard more hooks in one song than "Band on the Run." It's 5 minutes long, and it's like a medley. He was great at doing those medleys. I think Let It Be's got a fantastic medley on it too from him. He was great at the medleys, but "Band on the Run" works as a single song in a way that the Beatles medley doesn't. It's like a little mini medley, but it's all hooked up as hell the entire way through. So I've heard the song a billion times. If I hear it another billion times, it's fine by me. It really remains entertaining from beginning to end. It never lacks on hook. So, title song from "Band on the Run" by Wings, Paul McCartney and Wings.
Yeah, boy, and when you mentioned "She Loves You," that is about the greatest example. It really is many great Beatles songs. That might be the ultimate one because it's not so much. And I'm just going to mention that I kind of wanted my list to focus on hooks that weren't just the chorus. And maybe songs that had hooks that were better in other parts of the song that were not the chorus. "She Loves You" is a great example of that because I think the best hook in "She Loves You" is not the chorus. Because the chorus is very simple. "She loves you, yeah. But the verse, has that, da 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 da, and just that move up. To me, that's the ultimate hook in "She Loves You." That's what really makes it work.
Well, I mean, I want to hold your hand. They were that's so I don't. We've never really done or even talked about a Beatles full episode, but I understand that for like that whoever sings the song tends to be the one who was the main writer of the song. But I think the division between Lennon and McCartney became more pronounced as time went by. I think there were records like this early on that benefited from them both putting their best hooks in this, jamming them all into like 1, 2, or 3 minute record. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
all of those early singles are just crammed with them from beginning to end, and everyone in the world has muscle memory for these things. These are like hooks, no matter where you play them. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and the funny thing is, it also might not be true. It's just something that Paul McCartney said in an interview, and I certainly would prefer to believe it's true. But he said in an interview that anytime that he and John actually sat down and worked on songs together, they never once came away from one of those sessions without something.
Right.
Like there was always, there was never something where they went away and said, today it didn't work out.
Right.
Every single time it and I guess that's apparent from the output that they had.
Yeah, pretty amazing. You just can't beat it. You can't beat them their entire career. Their songwriting definitely changed, but their mastery of the hook. I mean, they had it from day one, literally from "Love Me Do."
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to start with this one just because I didn't really want to double up. We talked all about Fleetwood Mac last week. We had our Fleetwood Mac fantasy draft. And my first pick in that was Go Your Own Way. That's one of my favorite all-time rock songs. And that's my first one on the list this week. And, as I mentioned last week, there's so much with just the opening, just the Lindsey Buckingham vocal opening the song, and then the Mick Fleetwood coming in with the drums, and then just kind of the way the instrumentation just seems to be accelerating almost. Obviously it's keeping a tempo, a strict tempo, but there's like a motion to it.
It's right. You're right. I know what you're just trying to describe. It does have the same. It has the same maybe beats per minute throughout the entire thing, but it really changes feel. It really is.
Yeah,
it's read completely differently.
It's like a speeding car. The song is like very much like a speeding car, if that makes any sense. But yeah, I think. I think it really is the strength of it is really in the verse more so than the chorus is great, but the strength is in the verse. Just the way that melody of the verse part moves from beginning to end. I think that's really the strongest hook in the song.
Yeah, Rumors has to also be one of the most hooked up albums of all time. Just hook after hook because of single after single, all of which, again, you had another one where you have 3 songwriters in the band.
And they were all firing.
Hook machines. Yeah. Literal hook machines. You can't beat them. In their prime, you just can't beat them. That's actually, we were talking about solo Lindsey Buckingham a little bit last week. Lindsey Buckingham's hooks are way underrated, and he can do he's a master of the riff and of the hook and putting them together, which is pretty uncommon.
Yeah,
really good. All right, quality choice, sir. I'm going to go off next with someone who I think does not get the credit he deserves in many respects. Mr. James Brown, and Get Up, I feel like being like a sex machine would be my number 9. And this always has met for me the criteria of, is this a song I could literally listen to a million times and not bat an eye? Like, am I prepared to hear this over and over until death and be happy with it? And the answer is yes. And the reason is the number of hooks in the song is deceptive. Like, the get up, get on up is just that. The call and response alone is something which is like one of the greatest earworms ever you can hang on. And, like, it's got that sort of that real obvious stuff, like the get up, get on up, call response. But underneath it, you realize, if you listen to the song often enough, that the syncopation between the stringed instruments, and I believe it's Bootsy Collins playing bass on that. I think that's the Startime band, I think, is the Bootsy Collins band. I think that's Bootsy Collins playing that bass. Like, just that little, and I'm not even going to try to mouth it. It's I could do it no justice. But everybody knows just those little weird little elements are massive things. And then you throw in the lyrics, and you throw in, like, that's a dangerous ass record, I think, during its time. And the hooks are so big, the groove is so great, the beat is so great that it's irresistible. There's nothing you can do to stop this record. There's just nothing you can do. It's every part of it is a hook. It doesn't need half the hook it has, and it would have been great. It's so tightly wound around its hook. It's really, to me, like a great encapsulation even to what the idea of a hook footer should be. So, Sex Machine by James Brown.
Okay, and let me see if I can confirm. Yeah, that probably was Bootsy Collins. Yeah,
I think it was. I know there's some dispute about what records he was on, but I think James Brown fired the original JBs, and I think this is one of the first recordings he made with that. I think they were called Star Time, but I could be wrong about that. But there was like that era band, the Bootsy era band. I mean, imagine, this is where they start. This is like one of the first sessions. Holy crap! Anyway.
All right. Well, okay. So since we're on call and response with Sex Machine, I'm going to continue on the theme of call and response, and my favorite example of that is David Bowie's "Suffragette City," with the verse part again. The Henry, get off the phone and all that. It's going to be hard to do this and not actually try to sing the songs.
Yeah, you're right.
But that's, to me, that's the best hook in that. But of course, you got so many more, and that the chorus there is great. The "Don't Lean on Me, Man" chorus, and then of course the probably the most killer part of that song is the stop and at the end of, or toward the end of the song, with the wham bam, the wham bam, thank you ma'am part.
Yeah, it becomes like bedlam after that. It's great. Although, and also, like, of all the songs that kick off with a guitar, that draw in, you can't touch that. You can't fake it either. There is no everybody who's ever walked up to a piano or a keyboard in Best Buy reaches out and plays those two notes. You have to, like, the feeling just backing that thing up is unbelievable. Yeah. The whole album.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's I'm not going to say that there's any other favorite David Bowie album. It's definitely Ziggy Stardust for me. As great as so many of the other stuff is, Ziggy Stardust is just a flat out masterpiece, and it's not his only one, but to me it's his best. But yeah, that intro and then just ripping right into the whole thing is just, it's a ripper. That's a ripper.
I believe you've correctly identified this as a ripper, and that's one of the things you got to get out here for New Jersey for. Is I live very close to Rutt's Hut, which is the place that I think made the Travel Channel for rippers, the deep fried New Jersey hot dog. I live like I live literally like 3 miles downriver from it. So I'm in. We will. I promise, sir. We will listen to Ziggy Stardust the entire way to our rippers. I'm good for that promise too. You know what? I'm embarrassed that I don't have a Bowie on my list. I could go back. I should go back and grab one, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to admit I didn't go grab one. Think of all of the incredible hooks that you have to pick from in David Bowie's tour. And
oh yeah,
there's a little heat between him and James Brown on the song Fame. Have you ever heard the James Brown answer record to Fame?
No.
It is so. I don't know the history, and I shouldn't. Anybody who wants to know could go look it up on Wikipedia. But the origin of that riff behind the song Fame was a guitarist. I want to say it's Carlos Alomar, who had been working with James Brown, and after leaving James Brown's band, he had that riff, and so James Brown, being angry, basically recorded, I think it's called Hot by James Brown. Let me see if I can I want to be positive. That is just like it's a spot on 100% ripoff of Fame. But he would claim that Fame was a 100% ripoff of his thing. So I don't know who sued each other or what, but that riff is massive and is a shared riff between the two of them. I know that seems like a weird diversion, but I'm going to put that in our playlist to bridge between Bowie and James Brown. I don't know the real story. I think I got it mostly right. It's called Hot. I need to be loved, 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 loved. Dropping that bad boy in. All right. Going from James Brown to Bowie, I'm going to go with next Badfinger, Day After Day. And I freely admit I got this idea from you because you mentioned you had a Badfinger song, and I think it was not this one. So this song is in my. I never tire of it. I remember hearing it on AM radio when I was a child for the first time. I remember loving it on WLS when it would play on AM radio on 890 AM out of Chicago. I loved it from literally the first time I've heard it. I've listened to it thousands and thousands and thousands of times. I never tire of it. The words are beautiful. The piano is a hook. The steel guitar, which I believe is George Harrison. It's a perfect record in my opinion, and there aren't a lot of records I would call perfect, but Day After Day by Badfinger for me is pretty much perfect all the way around.
All right. I'm so I'm going to I have like an extra song in mind.
All right.
So I think I'm just going to quickly mention that my Badfinger song was No Matter What, and then maybe sneak in a bonus song. Does that sound?
Sounds agreeable. We're both admiring Badfinger. Is what the point? Yeah, I think that's
yeah. Fun. Okay, so mine was No Matter What. All
right,
and
I'll dig that one up. Keep going.
And also, you know what? It might come back later on because that also is like probably one of the best guitar solos. So at some point, we'll have a guitar soloist show, I'm sure, and right. That might make that list. So I'm just going to mention that one quickly, and then I'm going to. Okay, so the next song I'm going to go with on my list is Fluorescent Adolescent by the Arctic Monkeys, or I guess by Arctic Monkeys. Is that a faux pas to say the Arctic Monkeys? I'm not sure.
A party foul at worst.
But definitely a hook-laden song. The verse part is just the cadence of the verse part, I think, is very, very catchy. And then and probably I would have to say the strength with this song for me is the chorus, though. But not a chorus where it's just repeating something simple over and over, like the most basic type of chorus, but you know, actual like the lyric structure that you would have normally in a verse part, but in the chorus, and just a great melody to that. But a great combination of those two things, where it's like the speedy sort of phrasing in the first part, and then more of like an uplifting melody to the chorus, and just very, very catchy, and a song that I haven't heard as, you know, probably a million times less than the other songs on my list. Not as road tested as the others, but plenty road tested, because we're going back to the mid-aughts with this one. So I've definitely heard it enough times at this point to know that it's road tested enough.
Well, they get streamed in the hundreds of millions. Like, Do I Want to Know has got over 750 million streams on Spotify. So if you live on this planet, you hear the Arctic Monkeys. There's no way around it. And I'm not complaining.
Yeah, well, and you know the numbers. I never know the numbers. Is this this is one of their highest? Okay, what number is it?
It's number 4 with 308 million, and then but it's the only one that is not from the album AM. Almost all their listens come from the album AM, whereas Fluorescent Adolescent comes from Favorite Worst Nightmare, I think. Correct? Yes.
Yeah.
So, yes, that is
the
big time catalog.
The sophomore effort.
Sophomore effort. All right, I don't know anything about Arctic Monkeys. I'll have to go back and give them another try. Up next for me, I had to put one on there. It's not my favorite, but I respect it. Simon and Garfunkel's Mrs. Robinson. I just don't see any way around including something from Simon and Garfunkel. They wrote incredible hooks, like great choruses, memorable poetry. I mean, they're just masters.
Well, and Mrs. Robinson's another example where, to me anyway, the strongest hook is the verse. The chorus is a strong hook as well, but to me the melody of the verse is what really makes it work.
Yeah, but
I might be in the minority. I don't know.
The Cuckoo Cachoo and the Joe DiMaggio. There's so many things that make this nuanced and interesting, and it never stops giving you something to think about.
Yeah,
very interesting that way.
But you know, like the verse is great too, and then you know, when the verse changes to the, you know, laugh about it, you know, that part.
Yeah.
And then the part like connecting that to the chorus is great too. Yeah, that is a great. It's a great pop song.
Yeah, Bookends is way underrated as a Simon and Garfunkel album. Hazy Shade of Winter, At the Zoo, Mrs. Robinson, Fakin' It, Old Friends, and America. And come on, how many? Come on, you can't beat that. You can't. Not even within their catalog, I don't think. I don't. That's a hot take, and I apologize of it already because I know people would just hate that idea that might be their best album, but it might be their best album. There you go.
All right. All right. My next one is, and by the way, I'm kind of noticing something else about how my list pans out, but I'm going to save that for later. My next song is David Watts by the Kinks. again, it's another one where I think the verse is kind of what makes the song click. The da 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 da, and of course that's the intro as well, and it's and it's a universal idea as well as anything else that makes it work. It's just the jealousy that a kid has over the kid that is the captain of the team, and what is there something going on?
I'm trying to grab it. So David Watts is from the album Something Else. I mean, picking a Kinks song, that's a tough one, because they're I mean, I'm just sitting and looking at their catalog right here. David Watts is like, I'm a fan of the Jam, so for me, I love David Watts. I got two chances to dig it, but I don't know how well known it is, but God, you just can't beat it. Stop Your Sobbing can't beat. Like, how many? There's got to be 25 Kinks songs that are like elite level hooks. At least 25.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Elite, son.
Yeah, and it's not even to say that this is my favorite Kinks song. It's not. But as far as my favorite Kinks hook, yes, it is. So there is a difference, like the song with the best hook isn't necessarily the song that, like Waterloo Sunset is my favorite Kinks song ever. David Watts is top 5 for sure, but it isn't always the best hook that makes for the best song.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Days is such a great mix of hooks.
Yeah,
it's lyrically is so complex in a lot of ways. Like, it sings about something that nobody else has ever really sung about before or after. Like, it's really interesting hooky from a hook perspective. But yeah, there's nothing bad. There's nothing to say about the Kinks other than they're just masterclass. Almost every one of their albums has at least one masterclass in hook writing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could even go much later and go Do It Again. Do It Again's a great hook.
I'm not embarrassed to say that I liked the Come Dancing. I thought that was great. I thought Hatred from the one in the 90s was great. A lot of it was great.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, there are a few that I like. There are a few that I like more than Ray Davis.
Yeah. I can't wait if the Kinks do really play a live show. Hopefully, New York would be the place they'd play it. I think that's one where I'd spare a little expense to see them. We're going to find out. We shall see. Our list has been a little bit of a sausage party. I'm kind of self-conscious about that. So I'm going to go next for one of I think, the biggest hooks ever in written music. Stand By Your Man by Tammy Wynette. I mean, the Blues Brothers, I can't get angry at what the Blues Brothers did with the song. I feel obligated to address it because it just it sort of reduces it down to this sort of chorus and the sort of like the discomfort. I actually it's like trying to handle the discomfort of having to hear that. Like, I don't think that what the Blues Brothers did to it detracts from its power. I think the fact that it is so big and so over the top, but it never wears out your ear. It's big as anything ever, and no matter how big it is, it never wears out your ear. And that's because it's stuck on top of one of the best hooks ever. And even if you hear a little bit of cynicism in the verses, even if you hear a little bit of, the verses are definitely complicated on this classic. But if you had any doubt where it was coming from, if you have any doubt like that she loves her man, all is dispelled it's not the hook that does it. It's like the force of her will. You just can't lay a glove on it. So in any regard, Tammy Wynette, Stand By Your Man. That's hooks all day.
Well, and the point, at least the way I see it, the point of its appearance in the Blues Brothers is these were two dudes that didn't really know any country. Right. They had to pull something out of their hats because they're in a bar that, country, like the line from the movie is, we have both kinds of music, country and Western.
Right.
And so they had to think on their toes of what's the one country song that we know, and that happened to be the song. And I think the joke there is that, it's a song that's very much the point of view of a female, and that was the only country song that they knew, so they had to go with it, and that's, I don't think there's any slight in its referencing in Blues Brothers.
All right, then I won't feel self-conscious about it, but I feel like there's a lot of people who I think that I feel like the Blues Brothers is the only way they can admit they like the song. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but
I want to rep for her.
But the joke in the movie is that it's a song that is very far away from their own point of view, and it isn't so much a dig at the song itself. It's just that the song doesn't really fit those two characters.
It is interesting you mentioned that, and this is the wrong podcast. I understand that, but given the amount of cultural appropriation, I mean, the film is basically built on a cultural appropriation that is entirely presented as appreciation. Like I don't think they were necessarily trying to go out of their way to exploit without reverence. You know what I'm saying? Like they can't avoid being exploitive, but it is interesting that it is so nakedly exploitive on the one hand and so unwilling to be exploitive on the other, with the gender stuff. Very, very interesting. Anyway.
Well, it's just, it's a little bit of a fish, it's a fish out of water scene, and what's, more of a fish out of water thing is that the only country song that they know is Stand By Your Man,
Yeah. I'm gonna have to. All right, this one's problematic. I'm sticking by Tammy Wynette and I'm sticking by the song, but I can't stick by what it means. I need to meditate on it.
I'm just trying to simplify it. It's not really that complicated. I don't think it's just.
We're gonna have to agree to disagree. It's too important. I'm gonna have to meditate on it for a week. I'll let you know how it turns out.
Yeah, I mean that's the joke, though. It's just that it's Stand By Your Man, and it doesn't really. It's not the obvious song. Like if they were to pull out a George Jones song instead of a Tammy Wynette song,
but they're not entirely reverent about it's not entirely reverent the way they are with the black music. So like with the black music, they're entirely reverent, but with Tammy Wynette and the hillbilly shit, they're not at all.
Well, just because they are out of their element, that's the whole thing. They're out of their element, and to make it more out of their element, the song happens to be Stand By Your Man. So I don't know. I don't really think it's all that complicated.
Right. You know
really.
what? Okay. Tammy Wynette probably doesn't withstand a lot of postmodern garbage. So you're right. I should just drop it. I don't. It's a big, big hook, though. You got to give me that.
Sure.
Sold.
All right, so the next one on my list, and I'm going to I'll say this now. My list is obviously very British, and I can totally understand why that would be. I think there's sort of a certain DNA thing going on with melody, and melodies what most of these songs have in common. And my next song on my list is from the Britpop era, and it is "Common People" by Pulp, and and it's I would say really with this the strongest thing is the chorus, because the chorus is what makes the song such an anthem. But the verse is also full of hooks. And the backing of the verse with the synthesizer, and like I definitely lean more toward guitars, but when synthesizer is done right, I appreciate it just as much as anyone. And the way that works, it's like very sparse on the verse too. It's not very complicated. It's very very simple musically. But the verse part works great. But then, this is an example where the chorus is definitely the big hook in this song.
Yeah, boy, the sing-along chorus of this is pretty big on that one. And
you gotta love that. You gotta, "Stand by Your Man's" a great sing-along chorus as well. You gotta have you gotta represent the sing-along chorus in here as well.
Yeah, I can't. I don't want to dog American music, and I don't think you are by being heavily British here. The British have a certain songcraft that favors the hook, I think, in a way that all American music doesn't.
Yeah.
But Common People is pretty big, but it's very British. Very big.
Yeah, and the sing-along chorus is definitely a British thing too. And you go back one song to the Kinks. The Kinks had so many of those. David Watts is one of those.
Yeah.
So many Kinks choruses are very, very sing-along.
Oh, well, we don't have time to talk about Tub Thumping. Maybe someday. I'm gonna not today, Satan. All right, Pulp. Common People. Can't beat that. That's all-time great on the songcraft too. I'm gonna go. This is my. So I think we're down to. We've each picked how many here? I have 3 to go.
I don't even know. I threw in an extra one, and
I have 3 left. I'm going to go here with. It's tough to pick one from the Ramones, but I went with "I Want to Be Sedated," even though Blitzkrieg Bop is so condensed and loaded. There is nothing that could be done to improve "I Want to Be Sedated." It literally is perfect. And Blitzkrieg Bop probably is 2. But I don't know. The sing-along choruses, they both have them. I don't know. It's such a beautiful sounding record too. I don't know. Maybe it's just pure preference. I think there's probably half a dozen Ramones songs that belong on greatest hooks of all time. So I picked "I Want to Be Sedated."
Yeah, for me, I think it would be "Sheena as a Punk Rocker." That's
you can't beat that either.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so this is almost another bonus because I feel like I want to talk about Sheena as a punk rocker as well. But yeah, I mean, just the verse with the "ready to go now," it's like very Beach Boys, very
The truth is, this is a terrible thing because it is a hot take, and I don't know how I even feel about it. I haven't the truth is, like, the only competition for the Buzzcocks there was in punk in terms of hook was the Ramones.
Yeah,
that's really the only body. And Pete Shelley and the Buzzcocks overall were probably better at it than the Ramones, pound for pound. However, I don't know if did the Buzzcocks ever hit a high as Blitzkrieg Bop or "I Want to Be Sedated." Is everybody happy nowadays, or what do I get? Are those that high a high? I don't know. I don't know how I feel, but punk has to be represented in the hook category, and I know I think you could defend any number of Ramones songs as best punk.
Yeah, and what do I get is probably the hookiest one, but it's, ever fallen in love with someone
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah, that's also my all-time favorite Buzzcocks.
Pete Shelley was such a great songwriter that I believe by the Buzzcocks is one of the only 8-minute long hooky songs there's ever going to be. Actually, that we're going to need to do another hook show someday, just so we can talk about I Believe by the Buzzcocks, which is one of the greatest rock and roll records ever. That's for another time.
Yeah, and how many did you say you had left? Because I think
I think two left after that.
Oh, okay. So at the beginning you said 10, so I was like, "Oh, we're going to do 10."
Well, how many did we end up doing?
Well, yeah. So
you got two on you, son.
I have so many left. I don't know what to do with them.
All right. Well, if you keep going, I can keep going. I have others.
Okay.
I have others.
All right. So yeah, I have. Let me see here. I have 5. I have 5 left.
All right. Well, I will grab a couple more. Carry on.
Okay. All right. So my next one. All right. So the Beatles. It was certainly going to have at least one Beatles song. It's hard not to have multiple, and it's hard not to go into the solo careers. I tried to limit myself to that because there are so many songs to choose from for this kind of list. And again, to begin with, I wanted to, I was trying to build a list of songs where the verse was maybe the biggest hook, and the chorus was taking a back seat to it. And so the Beatles song that I went with was "You Won't See Me," and to me the verse is the chorus is great and also very simple, and to me the verse is what is really the selling point, and especially the way that the verse has a great melody, but it's also accompanied by the other Beatles doing the backing vocals, Paul McCartney on the lead vocal. And,
the guitar solo is heavenly. It's literally heavenly. The guitar solo is literally heavenly.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's so many things to it, so McCartney singing the verse, and the Beatles have this, la 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 going in the back of it, and the melody of the verse kind of turns inside out a little bit, and it's and at a certain point in the song, the tempo slows down, and it's just one of those things that it's very sublime.
I'm just looking at the album. Sorry, I'm distracted myself. Because if I had to be honest, my number one probably all time would be "In My Life" from Rubber Soul. I mean, Rubber Soul, I'm just looking at it, might be the greatest collection of hooks ever, more than Revolver. Because what makes Revolver great is that deviation into the weird shit.
Well, they work very well together. To me, I kind of think of Rubber Soul and Revolver as a double album that isn't really a double album. Those to me that they're the two Beatles albums that are the closest to each other, except maybe if you look at if you go back to the earliest stuff.
Yeah. Well, let me just. I'm sorry, this is a bit tedious, but there is not a song on this album that is not defendable as a if you're teaching a class on a hook or a song built on hooks. Drive my car, Norwegian Wood, You Won't See Me, Nowhere Man, Think for Yourself, The Word, Michelle, What Goes On, Girl, I'm Looking Through You, In My Life, Wait, If I Needed Someone, and Run for Your Life. Can you name 14 better collections of hooks?
Yeah. Well, and how underrated is George's contributions, or how underrated are George's contributions to that album?
Yeah.
They're great as well, but not necessarily very well known songs. It's
Might be their best
definitely
guitar work too. Yeah. I don't know. That's a tough call.
Yeah, well, I think George's strongest work was when he was just keeping with the melody, and that's very much what he was doing in that period.
Yeah. Wow. All right, I owe myself a listen to Rubber Soul soon. All right, you have given me some freedom, sir, and I am going to try to get out of the 60s and 70s, if only briefly. But I'm going to throw in Just Like Heaven by The Cure. And while it's from the album Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, which is a nice album and all that, you really want the remix that Bob Clearmountain did for the 12-inch single and the 7-inch single. That's what I'm going to post in the on our playlist. It's the same version used in the video. They dried it out a little bit. It's a little less sappy. It doesn't need it. It has. I mean, lyrically, it's the usual just gibberish that Robert Smith had been doing by that time. I mean, you could build a pretty comprehensive Robert Smith soundboard out of like maybe 12 ingredients, and this has all 12 in them. However, like of all the little like line cliches he plays, and he's like, of all the little riffs that he constantly references over and over again, he really put it all together in one thing that is pretty magical. Like the Cure, he's always been a great songwriter, even when he was trying to go out of his way to be sort of obtuse. He still had such an eye for an image or a lyric or a riff or a sound. And then once he decided that he was going to make himself some real money, he pulls this one out. And I mean, it's one of the great singles of the 20th century, in my opinion. So Just Like Heaven by The Cure. I'm biased. I love The Cure. I was like a Cure completist as a kid. I saw them on that tour. I don't think I've ever been happier in my life than like when The Cure came on stage in whatever it was, like 1987. I was experiencing like brain pleasure overload. It's like when he played that, when they played the Just Like Heaven live, like I literally I was overdosed on like whatever that feeling is you get it at moments. I had to include it. Yeah, dopamine. That's it. It was a heavy dopamine moment for Just Like
That. All right. Well, my next song, I guess we'll stay in the 80s. The next song on my list is "I Will Dare" by The Replacements. Yeah, I can't remember the point at which I knew that I was in with The Replacements, but definitely if I wasn't in already when I first heard "I Will Dare," I was all in at that point. Definitely from the first time you hear this song, or for me personally, to the 90 millionth time I heard this song, it's just pure magic, and just starting with that with the guitar part, and then and then the guitar playing along with the verse, and yeah, I mean the chorus is just so great. To meet me any place, anytime, anywhere. Just the way that kind of the bounce to it has such a great bounce to it, and I think it's really the point where Paul Westerberg knew that he had something. As many great songs as he had already written to that point, I think he knew that was a breakthrough when he had that one.
The transitions are incredible too. The ins and out of the verses and in and out of the chorus, and the little riffs and the little flourishes that hold it together. Those on their own are serious. That's serious shit.
Yeah, well, yeah. You have the verse, and then you have that part, where the ain't lost yet, so I gotta be a winner. Like the way that speeds up a little bit, and then goes into the chorus. Yeah, it's such a great, just a complete, very complete statement.
I would agree with you. And certainly I think he gets he could easily be called one of the great songwriters of the 20th century. Although I know he wrote well after that, but I don't know. I always thought there was a chance he was really going to become like a mainstream, normal, like household name. And for whatever reason, it never materialized.
Well, if you know the story of the Replacements, it just wasn't really. It wasn't. It was very much going against their nature to be the big stars.
Right.
They were more. I didn't mean to make this pun, but since I stumbled upon it,
there you go.
They were bound to be big star, not big stars.
That is true. Well, they, I don't know. History is going to. I am guessing they will always be in print, and it's because of the hooks in general. The songcraft too, the performances to some degree, but it's the hooks. And if you can, I Will Dare is them at the top of their power. I think probably.
Yeah, the hooks and the wordplay. I mean, Westerberg's wordplay doesn't take a backseat to anyone.
Yeah. Good shit. I will go next with, we discussed it in passing, and I may not have your approval here, sir, but I'm going to ask you to, if you can't rationalize it with your mind, if you can't feel it in your heart, try dancing to it. It's Staying Alive by the Bee Gees. And Staying Alive has so many great little like lyrical, like I think you could base just its lyrics are great, but I don't really even have time to talk about that. In the interest of time, all I would ask, if you need to understand, like everybody knows the lyrics, everybody knows the dancing that goes along to it, but go on YouTube and watch the trailer to Saturday Night Fever with the sound down, and you can see what a great actor John Travolta really is. Like when you watch that opening scene and it's Staying Alive's playing, and when you watch it in the movie, you get the music and you get him, and that is where music videos come from. Like that intro, I believe, is the first time like humanity was ever hit on a large scale with that dopamine release that music videos gave us. And if you watch it without the music, you realize that like John Travolta is the music. Well, he wasn't like listening to that when they were, that he was walking that way to the music in his head. And then they come up with this record that is the equal to what John Travolta's like actual just whole style and persona was. For a bunch of old weird dudes from Australia, like literally like washed up hippies, to pull out of their ass this just unbelievable, like gritty New York disco thing. Come on, man. It's perfect. It can't be better. It can't be better. It can't be made better. And you can't, I don't know. There are other great dance records, but is any dance record anywhere in human history really better than this? Maybe. I don't think so. It's all hooks. Everything about it is a hook, and it just lands. It just lands. Go watch the intro to Saturday Night Fever with and without it, and you'll realize how great Travolta is, and how great this song is, and how great the pairing is. It's just world class.
It is a great bass line.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so with that in mind, with the bass line in mind, next song on my list is Signed, Sealed, and Delivered by Stevie Wonder.
Oh yeah.
And definitely, again, this goes back to when my list was focusing on the verse as opposed to the chorus secondary. Chorus is great, but the verse part is really what clicks. And the biggest part of that is the way the bass, the up and down of the bass line on the verse part here, which I mistakenly had thought was James Jamerson for the longest time. Come to realize it's actually Bob Babbitt that was the bass player on this song. So all credit to Bob Babbitt for his work on this. And it was not actually James Jamerson on this. But Stevie Wonder, so many great songs, and tons of songs I could hear a million times. But this is definitely my favorite of his hooks.
It is also one of the most beautiful sounding records. Like I mean, when I worked at an oldie station, you have to have reasonably decent headphones. So I frequently got to hear a lot of these old records in earphones, in good quality headphones rather. And I tell you what, man, that record, Signed, Sealed, and Delivered, just sounds beautiful. It's like it's crystalline every single time, especially in headphones.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the reason it holds up so well to repeated listens. It sounds so beautiful.
Well, and also I dare anyone in like the worst mood they can possibly be in to listen to Signed, Sealed, and Delivered and still be in a foul mood. Unless there's something so completely awful that is creating that mood. Like, I don't know how you can feel bad after listening to this song.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. And not to go back to the Beatles, but his cover of "We Can Work It Out" comes right before that in the sequence on the album. That's a 1-2 of hooks. Like that's pretty incredible. I have those back to back.
Yeah, well, and that's my favorite all-time cover. That at least my favorite Beatles cover, and that's really saying something.
Yeah. All right, Stevie Wonder's probably on every element of what makes a great song. If we do a list where there's going to be at least some Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
You can't say that for Conway Twitty, but I am going to bring Conway Twitty aboard for "Hello, Darlin'." And "Hello, Darlin'" has so many things going for it that can be called hooks, but maybe you have to be in the range of like, I don't know, somewhere in your like 40 to 50 years old to be old enough to remember what it was like if you fell asleep with cable TV on in like the late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s. It was quite likely that you were going to have a Time Life music series infomercial run in the background while you're sleeping. And I think they had one for country music where every time they would start the cycle over in the infomercial, it would be Conway Twitty going, "Hello, darling. Nice to see you." And I know there was like a 1-800 number commercial for Conway Twitty's 30 greatest hits. That started with, "Hello, darling. Nice to see you." So if you had cable TV in the 80s, you've heard "Hello, darling" at least a million times. Now, that never bothered me. Listening to Conway Twitty sing through his dentures has never bothered me. I could listen to him sing over and over and over again. But this song crams into it so many hooks. It's like the hook of just him starting by going, "Hello, darling. Nice to see you." That's the only hook I need to defend this record. The fact that he goes and has the full conversation, he basically holds a dialogue from only his point of view. You can't beat this. You can't beat what this record does. Like, "What's that, darling? How am I doing? Well, I'm doing all right." Like, that little ascending line is one of the greatest hooks of all time. I don't know. I'm kind of joking, but I'm not really. I'm not. There's probably a half a dozen Conway Twitty songs that belong in the Hook Hall of Fame. And, I don't know, to each their own. It's Only Make Believe by Conway Twitty is one of the greatest rock and roll records of all time. So he wasn't just some pig fucker from Arkansas or some shit. Like, he was a real musician and he was a real songwriter and a little bit of a dirty old man, but he wasn't the worst about that either compared to some of the other people on the charts at the same time. So "Hello, Darlin'," I don't know, lyrically, he's not particularly forward-thinking or forward-looking, I'll say. He's not forward-looking, but I don't know. I don't know. It's like the complete package. It's another one of these perfect songs that you just can't tinker with. Don't tell me you don't love any Conway Twitty. Just don't tell me you don't have any Conway Twitty in your orbit.
I honestly don't. I've never.
Oh.
Yeah.
Boo.
Yeah. Sorry.
All right. I'm going to make you love Conway Twitty. You'll see.
I don't want Conway Twitty to be the next I'm going to make you love me.
All right.
Well, you know what? It might as well be. It's up to you.
It's
totally your call. Totally your call. All right. So how many you got left?
I can do one or two more. It's up to you.
Okay. All right. I'm going to do two more.
Right.
And you know what? Maybe not. Let me see here. All right. I'm going to do one more. I'm just going to mention what my second one would have been because everybody knows it. Everybody knows it very well. My next one would have been Good Vibrations by the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
Hooks all over the place. The verse, the theremin, everything, my number one is Surrender by Cheap Trick. And of course it has a great verse. Like the combination of the two things, I couldn't love it more. I like everything about it. It is really though the strength to me is the verse. Almost even footing. I'm not going to say one is so much better than the other, but I do want to focus on the verse. So, and just how great that part is with the melody. Just the peak. It's kind of like a roller coaster. It goes up that big peak, and then that drops way down, and then the whole time. Rick Nielsen is playing that kind of bluesy, like the bluesy shuffle in the back of it. And then the second part of the verse, you have the harmony with Robin Zander and Rick Nielsen. And just the way that all works together is what makes that song so great. And then, yeah, of course, it's great. Your mom is all right. Your daddy's all right.
They just seem a little weird.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I could hear it a billion times and it just is never going to wear thin.
I would add that the keyboard run is that was a dangerous thing for a band like them. Like there was still a sort of meathead contingent, even within like the new wave and stuff like that, who thought synthesizers sort of cheapened rock and roll, man. And for such a guitar-loving band, and a band that was so heavily identified with the guitar, for them to be shameless about dropping right in the middle of that perfect little song of theirs, this incredible little synth run, I give them credit for.
Well, and so yeah, the keyboard is good, but also the Bunny Carlos, the rat-a-tat-tat machine gun drumming on that. Also, it's all such a great, perfect recipe.
Yeah, I mean, my parents live in Rockford, so I get about as much exposure to Cheap Trick as you can in this country just by visiting them there. But I wish some of the I don't know. I wish some of the oldies type stations tried a little harder and played more Cheap Trick. I think they get lost in the shuffle sometime, and I think people forget that they had at least 10 years of producing like high test chart grade pop records that bridged genres. Like they weren't really just new wave. They weren't really just power pop. They weren't just really ballads. They were able to do all that shit. And I think people forget that. I don't know. I know you don't. I
I definitely don't.
They get undersold a little bit. People don't. I just don't hear as many people talk about them in the show. Maybe we should do an all Cheap Trick show.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, I only had one more that I need to just sneak in, and we don't need to make I don't need to make an epic case out of it. But this morning, I had meetings in Boston, and then I drove. I was there for the weekend, I went up to Maine. Maine was delicious. I drove by Fenway Park on my way home today, driving from Boston back to New York, and I was listening to Sweet Caroline.
You drove past the Stop and Shop with the radio on.
It was not late at night, though. It was not.
Yeah.
I did. It was the sound of modern Massachusetts, though, at least to the extent that I was in Massachusetts and I was listening to Sweet Caroline. So, yes, the sounds of modern Massachusetts would be near the top of my list of that Sweet Caroline by Neil Diamond. Come on, give it up for Neil Diamond. Don't be too cool for Neil Diamond. He's an incredible songwriter.
Okay.
What?
No, he's fine. He's not one of my favorites. He's fine.
Oh,
I
no.
I'm not against him. I'm he's fine. He's fine.
Oh no. All right. This has to change. He's got a way to move you, Flick. And I'm going to find out what that is.
A Neil Diamond song will find its way into one of my playlists probably once every 2 to 3 years.
Red Wine? You don't feel that one?
No.
I'm a Believer?
No, that is a song that wore me down, like actually as a child. I think I liked it a little bit when I was a kid, but I heard it a few too many times and then stopped liking it.
So, do you think, like, if you were a Red Sox fan and you went to a bunch of home games, don't they sing "Sweet Caroline" in their 7th inning stretch, or do they sing it only when they win?
Sure do. They sure do.
You'd get sick of that? Really? You wouldn't enjoy that every time?
I don't know.
Oh no! All right, this is going to require remediation of some sort.
I'm not going to rain on your parade about it. I'm just not the biggest I am a big Neil Young fan. I'm not the biggest Neil Diamond fan in the world.
Oh. Well, I think it's a song which I could listen to over and over and over again. It's just so over the top and so just big and in the way. I don't know. I don't. Yeah, you just have to respect something that big.
You are definitely not in the minority on that, for sure.
Good times never. I mean, like, people sing along with that stuff sort of jokingly, but I just can't front. Like, I'm not joking now. I really think Neil Diamond's fucking great.
Yeah.
Shoot me.
But especially, I would say, just going back to Meatheads, it's hard not to associate Sweet Caroline with Meatheads at this point.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. I'm going to give it up to him, though. I was driving by today. I was having such a good time singing along with that. And I realized you could sing along with the whole thing. The whole thing is fun to sing to. It's fun.
Yeah, it is. It's a very good pop song, and make no bones about it.
Oh, I'm gonna end by saying this. Sometimes things that you see on the internet, like lists of best things to do, are a disappointment. I just want to say today that I drove to Portland, Maine yesterday, and I went to Eventide for lunch, and I had supposedly like the lobster roll to end all lobster rolls, and it is one of the only times in my life where I can say it was as good as billed or possibly better. I realize we're not a food show, but I just wanted to say it was so good that I had to mention that the Eventide in Portland, Maine. I know there is one in Boston too, but just the straight up old lobster roll. I'm mentioning this to you, Flick, only because you may be able to forgive me this, but the lady at the bar asked me, how was it? And I just said, I am from Iowa. I didn't really see the Atlantic Ocean until I was like 16 years old, I wouldn't know good from bad, but I'm like, if that's not the best lobster roll in the world, I can't imagine what is. I can't imagine what's better than that. So anyway, the Boston, the Sweet Caroline, the lobster roll. I just got caught up in it all. It was such a good time. I had to put it on my hooks list. It just got lost in the moment, Flick.
All right, yeah, lost in the moment. You got swept up in it.
Only for a moment, and the moment's gone. Dust in the wind.
All right. Well, yeah, I kept mine in the Midwest. So mine is pretty much either British or Midwestern because like that, which is and then Beach Boys if you count that because it really was on my list. But then the other than the Beach Boys, the American contributions to my list are Stevie Wonder, The Replacements, and Cheap Trick.
And Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, and Fleetwood Mac. So, also British, and then I guess you could say California or where does Lindsey Buckingham originate?
Massachusetts, I think. Stevie Nicks is from Phoenix, and I think Lindsey Buckingham is from the East somewhere. I could be wrong. I don't know.
Well, let's get right down to it. All right. So Lindsey Buckingham, he was born in California.
Oh, he was.
Mm-hmm.
So he could check out anytime he liked.
So he was born in Palo Alto, California.
Oh, wow.
So there you go.
Probably had a rich daddy.
Well, was there that was in 1949? Was that really a rich place at that point?
Maybe not super rich, but there was a lot. There was a lot of military there. There was a lot of engineering, and I think the naval one of the naval academies is just over the mountain in Monterey. But anyway, I don't know. I'll have to look that up.
All right. So
I hope he kept his family land because then they definitely are rich.
Yeah. So that's what makes my list up. What makes up my list?
All right. Well, I'm all over the place, and we easily could do 10 more of these shows. I'm looking at the ones I didn't even get to. We could easily do one just by country or by genre.
Yeah, well, and at least what we've talked about doing so far is just focusing on different selling points of songs, different elements of songs. Guitar riffs, could be drum parts, could be anything. We'll definitely have other shows like this, if not exactly the hook.
All right, well, I'm going to give the Arctic Monkeys another try, and I want you to go listen to the Beach Boys' "Staying Alive." I want you to. I want to let yourself feel it.
As if I've not heard it enough times in my life.
I don't know. Well, then you need to go go watch the opening or the trailer. Just watch the trailer for Saturday Night Fever.
No, I will say, so our lists are highly subjective. Definitely the songs on my list are songs that I've heard a billion times and they've somehow held up. Staying Alive is a song that didn't hold up for me to a billion listens. Or however many it was that I actually listened to that song. There are some songs, that have the elements that make them work, hold up to repeated listenings for other people, but it's subjective, like the same things that can make something hold up forever for one person might wear thin for somebody else. And I think that's kind of Staying Alive for me. Where it's like I heard it so many times, and it's like I'm a believer. I'm a believer so many times when I was a kid that it got to the point where I didn't want to hear it anymore. Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones. That's one of those songs that I don't necessarily like. I heard it enough when I was a kid to make me not want to hear it anymore. But of course, I love the Rolling Stones.
I can accept this. I can accept what you're saying, but
yeah,
even so,
Star Me Up is another one.
You should be dancing, Flick.
I like the mopey Bee Gees. That's the Bee Gees I truly love.
All right, seriously, I looked it up on YouTube. I'm going to post it in the notes section of our playlist for February. You can watch the intro to Saturday Night Fever, the opening sequence. It's just him, Tony Manero, walking down the sidewalk. If you watch it without the volume, it's fantastic. But when you watch it with the volume, it might be the greatest moment recorded on film. Just tell me it doesn't work hard. Please watch.
Well, I know the sequence with the music. I don't know it without it.
Yeah, watch it without. I mean, come on. Saturday Night Fever, such a good movie. We have to do an episode on that, too. It's that good. It's that good. We haven't decided what the topic for next week is, have we?
No, we'll have to get to work on that. It'll be something amazing.
Yeah, it might. Yeah, you're right. It might have to involve John Travolta somehow too. I'm just telling you. I don't make any promises.
I hate to keep on being the negative Nancy. John Travolta, not one of my favorites.
Well, he does appear on two of the biggest selling soundtrack albums of all time. Like he's his Pulp Fiction and Saturday Night Fever. That's another absolute monster soundtrack. All right, I'm going to convince you to get John Travolta movie soundtrack. Ranking John Travolta movie soundtracks would be an incredible episode. Okay,
you want to go off the beaten path a little bit?
Yeah.
Since you brought up Pulp Fiction,
yeah.
The thing that always drives me crazy about Pulp Fiction is, and I don't pay much attention to award shows, and I guess this is part of the reason why I don't. I've never understood, going back to when the Academy Award nominations were announced for Pulp Fiction. So John Travolta gets nominated for Best Actor. Sam Jackson gets nominated for Best Supporting Actor. In the movie, Sam Jackson's character is the one who undergoes a transformation. John Travolta's character does not. Sam Jackson's character has a story arc. John Travolta's character, not much of a story arc. So to me, if there is a main character in Pulp Fiction, it's definitely Jules. But for whatever reason, John Travolta is the one who gets nominated for Best Actor, and Sam Jackson's Best Supporting Actor. Total BS.
Yeah, it is BS. I mean, it's bias in favor of John Travolta's history of being in these, and then the fact that he was a huge box office draw, then falls off the earth, and then I think they were all thinking he was about to be a huge box office draw again, and he was for a while.
Yeah, it just goes to show you why award shows are BS.
Well, Saturday Night Fever, I think it was Gene Siskel who said it was the greatest American movie ever made. I think. If he said that, I might be in agreement with him. The only thing that compares to it maybe is Patton. So anyway, that's an episode for another time.
Yeah, it's good. There's Goodfellas. There are a lot of them. All right.
Well, John Travolta soundtracks as a subtopic, to me, I'm going to find a way to make it happen. Maybe not next week, but it's coming. You'll see.
Okay.
And Grease is the word.
Yeah, that's right. That's a movie I've never even seen. So.
Whoa!
I've never seen Grease, but we're in danger of sidebarring.
If we're going to sidebar about something, finding out that you didn't see Grease, I think is totally respectable. I have chills. Yeah. They're multiplying. I'm losing control.
I don't think I've seen Grease anyway. There's a chance I might have seen it when I was a very young kid, but if not, then no, I've never seen it. I've never seen it that I can recall.
Wow. Just wow. All right, well, that's definitely like we're gonna do a segment. You know what? One of these days, I think you owe us a report. You need to go rent it and watch it with headphones on, and then I think we could do an intro segment. I want to know. I had 3 younger sisters. I've been subjected to that movie hundreds and hundreds of times. I can recite whole scenes from memory. It comes to me in my dreams.
I've never seen Grease. I've never seen Dirty Dancing. What's another in that genre?
Yeah, I hate to admit it, I've never seen Dirty Dancing either. But I have been to the town where it was filmed in Lake Lure, North Carolina, and they have a Dirty Dancing festival every summer. And I have friends down there. So I promise you, if I am there, we are going to do a special report from the Dirty Dancing Festival at Lake Lure in North Carolina if I'm there at that time. I will be your correspondent. I bet. And you know what? I'm sorry. We could have started here. I do have a musical topic I want to raise here, and we didn't talk about it in advance, so I'm sure you'll feel like I'm just springing this out there and shouldn't. And you're probably right. Did you know that Eric Carmen? Have you ever followed Eric Carmen on Twitter?
No, because I don't Twitter. Okay. I guess I have a Twitter account, but
you put a Raspberry song in one of our playlists lately, and I
love the Raspberries. So I might be interested in where you're going with this.
No, you probably aren't.
Okay.
I've been listening to that Raspberry song, and then I go back and obviously listen to Go All the Way, which is one of the greatest pop records ever written.
Oh yeah. Another song that could have made my list.
Yeah, I think Eric Carmen is like a political nut, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, we should maybe go off before we slander anybody.
So. Well, that's probably true.
I don't know much about Eric Carmen's personal life. I just know his music.
I feel like I saw some. I'm looking at his Twitter feed right now. I'll take back calling anybody a nut, but go ahead and look at Eric Carmen's Twitter feed. I was very sad. I was realizing that my streams were going to Eric Carmen when I was listening to the Raspberries this week. That really did happen to me on This Week in Music. So and then I saw some incredible weird shit is on Twitter.
Maybe Wally Bryson would be a better follow.
No, Donnie Iris.
Yeah, well, Wally Bryson though was another Raspberry. That's why.
Wasn't Eric Carmen one of Cleveland's hottest rockers?
You mean hot in terms of what?
Isn't he a Clevelander?
Yeah, he's a Clevelander.
All right, I'm looking at the Donnie Iris Twitter feed. It hasn't been maintained since 2013.
What about Wally Bryson?
Hold on now. The last Donnie Iris tweet. All right, this truly, I know we want to cover Wally Bryson's going to have to be next episode because I want to leave on these words. The last tweet by Donnie Iris from April 24th, 2013. Just confirmed. Donnie Iris and the Cruisers, Friday, July 26th at 9 p.m. at the Lube-A-Palooza Festival at Quaker Steak and Lube, 101 Chestnut Street in Sharon, Pennsylvania. I don't know if you've ever driven across Pennsylvania on Interstate 80. It's one of the most mind-numbing, horrible drives in the world. It's so bad that it's exciting when you reach Sharon, Pennsylvania. That's an exciting town. Donnie Iris was using Twitter to promote his gig in the parking lot of the Quaker Steak and Lube in Sharon.
Yeah, I guess that drive across on 80 across Pennsylvania is the reason why I sidetracked into Pittsburgh. It's probably because of that boredom.
Yeah, from now on, I'm going to go all Pittsburgh because I can't take 80 anymore. But Knowing that Donnie Iris might be spotted at the Quaker Steak and Lube in Sharon, that might lure me back. I don't know. We're going to find out.
That was 7 years ago.
Yeah, it was a different Donnie Iris.
It was a whole different time.
All right, well, we'll figure out our topic. We'll definitely be here. I've already got my Hooks playlist ready to go. We'll put those up as quick as possible. It's been a big week for new music. We certainly got more stuff we can be talking about here in the week to come. So I don't think we necessarily have to plan it out too far ahead to give the quality guarantee.
Just trust us. It's going to be great.
That's right. We'll see you then.